with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. After Jesus' birth, which happened in Bethlehem of Judea during the reign of Herod, astrologers from the east arrived in Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the newborn ruler of the Jews? We have observed his star at its rising and have come to pay homage." At this news, Herod became greatly disturbed, as did all of Jerusalem. Summoning all the chief priests and religious scholars of the people, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem of Judea," they informed him. "Here is what the prophet has written. And you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the leaders of Judah, since from you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Herod called the astrologers aside and found out from them the exact time of the star's appearance. Then he sent them to Bethlehem after having instructed them, "Go and get detailed information about the child. When you have found him, report it to me so that I may go and offer homage too." After their audience with the ruler, they set out. The star that they had observed at its rising went ahead of them until it came to a standstill over the place where the child lay. They were overjoyed at seeing the star, and upon entering the house, found the child with Mary, his mother. They prostrated themselves and paid homage. Then they opened their coffers and presented the child with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. They were warned in a dream not to return to Herod, so they went back to their own country by another route. The good news of salvation. Good evening. A happy New Year. Tonight's readings are somewhat different, and I think that the first reading is what sets the whole stage. Matthew's gospel is based on the first reading. And the first reading from Isaiah starts with, "Arise, shine, for your light has come. The glory of Yahweh is rising on you, though night still covers the earth and darkness the people. All above you, Yahweh now rises, and Yahweh's glory now appears on you." The biblical commentary calls these phrases signals an extraordinary illumination, as though God were not wrapping splendor around Jerusalem, but rather by his presence within the city, radiating a dizzying light, a dazzling light. This reading has a different translation, but in the others I read, it also says, "Your daughters are carried on the hips of their nurses." It's an interpretation that the Gentiles evidently have a definitive contribution to make, enriching the people of God. This prophecy, remember, from Isaiah, 3rd Isaiah, is made in darkness. They have just come from Babylon in the captivity. There is no beautiful temple. It lies in ruin. The prophecy is that it will rise. And only with eyes of faith can the people see this. But this was, I remind you, a wonderful, in a way, captivity. in Babylon. Because history says that the Zoroastrians religion, a very small sect, was the first religion to profess monotheism. And the Jews in Babylon brought that back. And Judaism, being a much more powerful religion, gave monotheism to the earth. Although all the major religions profess to be monotheistic, it seems to me many of us have caveats about that. We seem to say, yes, I believe in one God, but my God is better than your God. Not quite logical. Mary McClone, in her commentary, states that Matthew, in this gospel, borrowed many details from Isaiah's prophecy. Isaiah prophesies that the people who have been in darkness will have the light of God's glory shine on them, and that their faith will attract people from all far, bearing gifts. And here are all the backgrounds of the gospel, right? The star, the light, people from afar, the Magi, bearing gifts. So Matthew begins his gospel with Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us. And as Mary McClone mentions, endangered among his own people, yet revered by representatives of the Gentile world. This is our feast day, us Gentiles, where we are invited in, both in Isaiah's prophecy and in Matthew's gospel. Matthew begins his gospel with air, and he ends his gospel with Jesus's command to make disciples of all nations, and I will always be with you. That command still stands today as we begin 2022, with a world facing daunting challenges of pandemic, climate change, poverty, homelessness, you name it. All of this and a seemingly insurmountable inability to come together to solve them, to be one and not at odds. Pope Francis comments on this time in his book, Let Us Dream, The Path to a Better Future. He shares ideas highly applicable to today's feast. He describes our time as a change of epoch, not simply a time of change. He says that this change, accelerated by the coronavirus, is a propitious moment for reading the signs of the times. He says a gap has opened up between the realities and challenges we face and the recipes and solutions available to us. And that gap becomes a space in which we are asked to reflect and question and dialogue. Christians are asked to dialogue, not condemn, to build bridges, not walls. And so we're asked to look to the Magi as models. Inspired by the gap between their knowledge and their hopes, they set out to seek meaning with their lives that they had not been given them. They reflected together on the signs of their times and sought wisdom from foreigners, confident that truth from another quarter would only add to the truth they already understood. It is only by reaching out to others, encountering them, dialoguing with them, trying to understand, forgiving where necessary. Mary McClung concludes her commentary with these words: as a synodal people, let us be on the move, discerning the signs of our times. Let us share the Magi's humble curiosity. Let us appropriate a share of their courage and confidence so that we too can seek, find, and follow Christ in our world. Amen.